Hidden beneath cities and behind layers of concrete and steel are some of the world's most secure vaults that hold billions in gold and reserves. These secret chambers, protected by armed guards and advanced technology, are the unseen foundations of our global finance. So we're going to take a look at 15 secret vaults that hold the world's wealth. Starting with number 15, the Bank of England Gold Vaults. In the financial district in London is one of the largest collections of gold in the world, the Bank of England's Gold Vaults. The Bank of England has been safeguarding gold for over 300 years, and today its underground chambers are among the most valuable and secure spaces anywhere on the planet. The vaults, of course, are not open to the public, and only a limited number of authorized staff are permitted to even enter, and access requires multiple security checks, and the system uses advanced electronic locks with time delays and multiple key holders. The amount of gold stored here is staggering. According to the bank's figures, its vaults hold around 400,000 gold bars weighing over 5,100 tons. That makes it the second largest collection of gold in the world after the U.S. Federal Reserve Bank of New York. The gold stored here not only belongs to the United Kingdom, but also to foreign governments, central banks, and international organizations. For example, the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, and the European Central Bank have used the Bank of England's vaults to hold reserves. Each standard gold bar here stored in the vaults weighs around 400 troy ounces. That's about 12.4 kilograms, and even a single bar is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars depending on the current market price. Security measures, of course, are deliberately not fully disclosed to the public, but it is known that the vault sits deep underground, with thick concrete walls, advanced alarms, and continuous monitoring. The bank has also confirmed that access involves not only modern tech, but also some traditional physical security, meaning that no single individual can gain entry on their own. For most people, the vault remains unseen, this treasure hidden behind layers of secrecy. It symbolizes the role of London as a global financial hub and the continuing importance of gold as a reserve asset. These vaults are not just about storage, but about trust. Governments and institutions rely on the Bank of England to protect some of their most valuable assets, and the system's stability rests on the knowledge that this underground fortress has never been breached. Number 14, the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. Way deep down below the busy streets of Lower Manhattan sit what widely is regarded as the largest known depository of gold in the world, the Gold Vault of the Federal Reserve Bank in New York. Located at 33 Liberty Street, the vault is nearly 80 feet below street level on Manhattan's bedrock foundation. The choice of this kind of depth is intentional, not only for structural support but for security, as the granite beneath the city provides a natural layer of protection. The New York Fed's vault holds about 497,000 gold bars, totaling around 6,190 tons of gold. This is more than what's held by Fort Knox and other U.S. Treasury facilities combined. But what makes this one unique is that the majority of the gold stored here doesn't actually belong to the U.S. Instead, it belongs to more than 60 foreign governments, central banks, and international organizations. The Federal Reserve provides custodial services, safeguarding the reserves but not owning them. Of course, security is among the most sophisticated in the world here. To even reach the vault, authorized personnel have to pass through multiple security checkpoints before descending into the underground levels. The entrance to the vault itself is secured by a massive 90-ton steel cylinder that acts as the door. This cylindrical door rotates into position and is sealed airtight, making it nearly impossible to breach without the correct access procedure. Inside, the gold is stored in compartments designated for each country or institution, ensuring separation and traceability. This vault plays a critical role in global finance by providing a neutral, trusted location for storing gold. Because gold is often used in international transactions, having a centralized, secure location in New York, one of the world's leading financial capitals, allows governments and institutions to transfer ownership of gold without physically moving it. A simple change in the official record can reassign ownership, reducing any risk and cost. The Federal Reserve Bank does occasionally permit tours of the vaults, but these are limited and strictly controlled. Photographs of the vault's interior, including rows of neatly stacked bars, have been released over the years, offering a rare look inside there. This vault is more than just a storage space. It's kind of like a symbol of international trust. Countries that store gold here do so because they consider the Federal Reserve a reliable guardian, independent of political instability that might affect other locations. For many nations, keeping reserves in New York ensures access to global markets and the security of their wealth under one of the most fortified systems ever built. Number 13. Fort Knox Bullion Depository. Maybe the most famous vault in the world, the United States Bullion Depository, better known as Fort Knox, sits on the ground of the U.S. Army post in Kentucky. It was constructed in 1936 to store the nation's gold reserves during a time of global uncertainty. The timing was deliberate. In 1933, President Franklin D. Roosevelt had issued Executive Order 6102, which required U.S. citizens to exchange their gold for paper currency. As a result, the government needed a secure place to centralize the massive inflow of bullion. Fort Knox became that place. The vault structure itself is designed with security as the absolute priority. The building is made of granite, reinforced concrete and steel, and its walls are said to be more than 2 feet thick. The main vault door is estimated to weigh more than 20 tons, and entry requires multiple combinations that are distributed among staff members so that no single person can even open it. At its peak in 1941, Fort Knox held about 649 million ounces of gold, which accounted for over 65% of the world's official gold reserves at that time. Today, the number is way smaller, but still pretty substantial. According to the U.S. Mint, Fort Knox currently holds around 147 million troy ounces of gold. That's equivalent to roughly 4,580 tons. Unlike the New York Fed's vault, the gold at Fort Knox is almost entirely owned by the United States government. The site is guarded by the United States Mint Police and protected by the Army posts surrounding it. It is considered one of the most impenetrable facilities in the world, with multiple layers of armed security, electronic monitoring, and of course restricted access. The secrecy surrounding it, though, has fueled some myths and conspiracy theories, from rumors that the vault is empty to theories that it holds other national treasures. However, the official records and periodic audits confirm that the gold is still present. Public access is not permitted, of course. The only time outsiders have been allowed inside was during a rare inspection and a 1974 visit by congressional delegations and a small group of journalists. Even then, access was tightly controlled and only a limited section of the vault was even shown. Fort Knox symbolizes not only America's gold reserves, but also the concept of financial stability. The very name has entered the English language as shorthand for something considered exceptionally secure. Despite the rise of electronic money and complex financial systems, the idea of gold sitting under armed guard in Fort Knox continues to carry weight as a symbol of economic power and trust. Number 12. The Bank of Spain Gold Vaults, Madrid. The Bank of Spain, they're headquartered in Madrid. It's the guardian of one of Europe's largest official gold reserves. Spain holds over 280 tons of gold, placing it among the top 20 national holders worldwide, and much of it is stored in underground vaults beneath the central bank's imposing 19th century building. The vault is constructed deep below street level, and they're designed with layers of reinforced steel and concrete to withstand any intrusions or attacks. Security protocols include multiple locked gates, armed guards, and round-the-clock electronic monitoring. The gold reserves here for Spain have played a crucial role in its economic history. In the 20th century, particularly during the Spanish Civil War, that was 1936 to 39, large amounts of the country's gold were famously transported abroad for safekeeping and international dealings, an event sometimes referred to as the Moscow Gold. Since then, Spain has maintained a far more conservative approach, keeping most of its bullion within its own borders in Madrid, while smaller amounts remain in trusted foreign custodians like the Bank of England and the Bank for International Settlements. Each gold bar stored in the Madrid vault weighs around 400 troy ounces. That's the international standard for central banks. The reserves are audited regularly, and the Bank of Spain publishes official data to confirm the size of its holdings. Of course, public access is not permitted, but the Bank of Spain does operate a museum above the ground, showcasing the historic currency and financial artifacts. But the actual bullion, however, lies far below, unseen and untouchable. It may not be as huge as those of the United States, Germany, or France, but the presence in Madrid is a quiet reminder that beneath Europe's capitals lie hidden chambers of immense value. Number 11. The Bank of France. In the heart of Paris lies one of Europe's largest collections of gold reserves. Known as the Underground, this vault is located some 27 meters below ground, and it's built directly into solid rock. It was inaugurated in 1927 to provide a safe and centralized location for France's gold, and ever since, it's remained one of the country's most important fortresses. The gold holds around 2,400 tons of gold, and according to recent reports from the bank, this makes it one of the top official gold reserves in the world, ranking just behind countries like the United States, Germany, and Italy. The gold bars stored here are part of France's monetary reserves, which are often overseen by the central bank as a safeguard of national wealth. Now, what makes the underground particularly notable is the size and its engineering. The underground chamber extends over 11,000 square meters, with rows of shelving units, reinforced storage compartments stacked with gold bars. The vault is accessed by a circular staircase that descends into the depth of the bank, where a massive secure door protects the entrance. Like other central banks, the precise security arrangements are not disclosed, but it's known to include multiple locked gates, strict access controls, and armed guards. Entry is limited to authorized personnel, and movement of gold in and out of the facility is rare. The gold itself is primarily the standard 400 troy-ounce bars used in international trade, and each bar is cataloged and weighed, and the vault's organization allows France to maintain precise records of the reserves. In recent years, the Bank of France has emphasized transparency regarding its gold holdings. It's conducted audits and even released limited public information about its vaults to demonstrate that the reserves are real and accounted for. Still though, the vault itself is not accessible to the public, and unlike museums or exhibits, the underground is strictly off-limits, preserving its function as a secure stronghold for France. Number 10. The Deutsche Bundesbank Vaults. Germany holds the second largest official gold reserves in the world, totaling about 3,350 tons. Much of this gold is now stored in Frankfurt, at the headquarters of the Deutsche Bundesbank. The vaults beneath the Bundesbank are among Europe's most secure facilities, representing the physical foundation of Germany's monetary stability. After World War II, huge portions of Germany's gold were held abroad, particularly in New York, London, and Paris. This was partly due to the need for international trust and the role of gold in global financial settlements. For decades, Germany's gold remained scattered in these foreign vaults. However, in 2013, the Bundesbank launched a major repatriation program to bring back substantial portions of its reserves. By 2017, the bank had successfully completed the transfers of 674 tons from New York and Paris, consolidating the majority of its reserves in Frankfurt. While the Bundesbank has not released detailed blueprints, it has confirmed that the vaults lie deep below its central office building, with access tightly restricted. Inside, the gold is stored in those standard 400 troy-ounce bars, each individually registered and cataloged. And they periodically conduct audits and publish reports confirming the exact tonnage and locations of its holdings. This effort at transparency is partly a response to public debates in Germany about the safety of the country's gold reserves. The presence in Frankfurt is more than symbolic. It reflects Germany's strategy to ensure direct control over its assets in times of crisis. While some of its reserves still remain in New York and London to facilitate international transactions, the majority is now under German soil. Germany's decision to bring much of its gold home is widely seen as a demonstration of financial sovereignty and prudence. The Frankfurt vaults today are a symbol of that independence, a reminder that behind the abstractions of modern finance, tangible gold reserves still play a role in national security and global trust. Number 9. The Banca d'Italia Gold Vaults. The Bank of Italy holds the world's third largest official gold reserves, totaling around 2,452 tons, and most of this is stored in the vaults of the Banca d'Italia, the Bank of Italy. These vaults that it holds and has emphasized the role of gold in fundamental safeguard for the stability of the country's economy. Unlike foreign currency reserves, which are subject to fluctuations and policy changes, gold does provide a tangible, universally recognized store of value. But the importance of their gold reserves has been highlighted in times of financial stress. Calls have been occasionally made to consider selling portions of the reserves to reduce debt. However, Italian officials have consistently maintained that the gold is a strategic national asset and should not be used for routine fiscal problems. Its presence in Rome and other secure sites is viewed as the backbone of the country's financial credibility. The vault itself, of course, is not accessible to the public and photographs are rare, but when limited media, the Bank of Russia. Russia has rapidly built one of the largest official gold reserves in the world, now ranking 5th globally with more than 2,300 tons. Much of this gold is stored in highly secured vaults maintained by the Bank of Russia, the country's central bank, in Moscow. These vaults form part of Russia's strategy to diversify its reserves away from reliance on foreign currencies and to protect against any international sanctions. The Moscow vaults are housed in the central bank's headquarters and other undisclosed facilities. The gold is stored in standard bars, each weighing about 400 troy ounces, and photographs occasionally released by Russian state media show long rows of shelves stacked with bars, overseen by uniformed staff, and the facilities, of course, are underground, with heavy reinforced doors, surveillance, and strict entry controls. Russia's emphasis on gold has definitely increased since the early 2000s. In 2000, its reserves stood at less than 400 tons. By 2020, the Bank of Russia had increased that figure more than fivefold. This buildup was part of a deliberate policy to reduce exposure to the US dollar and increase financial independence. Gold definitely provides a form of reserve that's not tied to any one currency or political system. During periods of sanctions and financial isolation, Russia has turned to gold as a stabilizer for its economy. By holding large volumes, the country ensures that it has direct control over a form of wealth that cannot be frozen by foreign institutions. Security, of course, is naturally a central concern, though the full details are classified. Reports do confirm that the vaults are guarded by both central bank security and government forces, with multiple redundant systems of alarms, locks, and physical barriers. The importance of Russia's gold vaults really do extend beyond the physical storage of bullion. They represent a deliberate geopolitical strategy to anchor the nation's economy in assets that are immune to foreign pressure. In this sense, the Moscow vaults are not just a financial storage space, they're instruments of national policy. Moving on to number 7, the People's Bank of China Gold Vaults. China is one of the world's largest holders and buyers of gold, and the reserves of the People's Bank of China are kept in some of the most secure vaults. Officially, China's gold reserve stands at over 2,260 tons, placing it in the top 6 national holders worldwide. However, the exact locations and structures of the vaults where this gold is stored is largely undisclosed. Beijing is widely regarded as the central hub for the country's official gold storage. Beneath the headquarters of the People's Bank are vaults that house a significant portion of the reserves. The Chinese government doesn't publish specific technical details, but photos released occasionally by state media show uniformed staff handling gold bars under supervision. Reports indicate that the bank maintains gold storage facilities in Shanghai, particularly linked to the Shanghai Gold Exchange. That's one of the largest physical gold trading hubs in the world. That distribution of storage allows China to safeguard its reserves and facilitate domestic trade. China's policy towards gold reserves has been shaped by its strategy to reduce dependence on the US dollar. Since the early 2000s, the bank has steadily increased its gold holdings, with periods of accelerated accumulation, particularly after 2015. Unlike in Western countries where central banks sometimes allow limited public tours or media access, these vaults are strictly off-limits. State media portrayals emphasize the stability and strength that these reserves provide in the country. These vaults represent not only financial stability, but also a strategic tool in international relations. China reinforces its influence in global markets and supports confidence in its currency policies. Even though the details of the vaults are largely hidden from the public, their role as one of the most secure repositories of wealth in the world is undisputed. Number 6. The Reserve Bank of India. India also has one of the world's largest private gold markets, and culturally, gold plays a central role in its society. Alongside that, the country's central bank, the Reserve Bank of India, RBI, also maintains significant reserves. As of recent reports, the gold holdings here amount to about 800 tons. That's a substantial portion of the reserves, and it's located domestically in secure vaults, with the most prominent located in Nagpur. That Nagpur facility is located within the bank's regional office, and it is known as one of the most heavily fortified sites in the country. Reports suggest that more than 90 tons of gold are stored here in this one alone, although exact figures fluctuate. The vault's buried underground and protected by thick concrete walls, advanced monitoring, and multiple layers of control. The facility is guarded not only by the RBI's internal security but paramilitary forces, and that shows the strategic importance of these reserves. India does also store some of its gold abroad, particularly with the Bank of England and the Bank for International Settlements. That dual system of domestic and overseas storage does allow a bit of flexibility, while also ensuring that a substantial share of reserves remain under direct national control. In the early 1990s, India faced a severe balance of payments crisis, and it had to pledge part of its gold reserves abroad to secure loans. That event showed the vulnerability of relying solely on external storage. Then, the Nagpur Vault thus became a way to guarantee that large amounts of gold would remain firmly in Indian hands. Official statements on occasionally parliamentary disclosures do confirm security arrangements and the scale of the holdings. For India, the Nagpur Vault is a financial safeguard. And in a country where gold has cultural and economic importance, the Reserve Bank's vaults are a hidden but vital component of national stability. Number 5. The Bank for International Settlements. Alright, so we've mentioned this one a few times. The Bank for International Settlements, BIS. It's often described as the central bank for central banks. It plays a role in global financial systems. It was founded in 1930 and headquartered in Basel, Switzerland. The BIS provides a banking service exclusively to central banks and international organizations. Among those services are the custody and transfer of gold reserves, much of which is stored in its own vaults in Basel. The vaults are located within the bank's headquarter tower, which rises above the Basel skyline, and in its underground facilities beneath it. And while BIS doesn't publicly disclose the exact amount of gold in it, it's well known that many central banks use the vaults as a neutral storage site. The BIS has historically acted as an intermediary in these gold transactions between countries, especially in the mid-20th century, when gold was a cornerstone of the global monetary system. As with other central bank vaults, though, specific technical details aren't released. The vaults themselves are highly secure, constructed of reinforced concrete and steel with multiple levels of electronic monitoring, and that's all there to safeguard the assets of central banks in a location that's politically neutral and internationally trusted. Ownership records are updated within the BIS ledger. That reduces a bit of cost, it lowers risks, and it speeds up international transactions. For example, if one central bank sells gold to another, the BIS can simply reassign the ownership of bars already in its vault rather than ship the bullion overseas. The secretary of the BIS vaults matches Switzerland's traditional reputation for discretion. They're not open to the public, and there's no official images of any vault interior. However, the BIS has confirmed in various reports that gold custody remains a part of its operations. The BIS vaults in Basel, they are quiet infrastructure of global finance. They're invisible to most, but essential in ensuring that the world's wealth can be safeguarded and transferred securely. Number 4. The Bank of Canada. Unlike most major economies, Canada doesn't maintain significant official gold reserves. In fact, since the early 2000s, the Canadian government has sold off nearly all of its holdings, leaving only a minimal amount as of the most recent reports. However, Canada's central bank, the Bank of Canada, has historically operated vaults that once held large reserves of gold. The Bank of Canada's gold vaults are located beneath its headquarters on Wellington Street in Ottawa. This underground facility was originally constructed to house the nation's gold reserves, which peaked during the 1950s and 60s at more than 1,000 tons. At that time, the Ottawa Vault was one of the most important repositories of bullion in the Western Hemisphere. Reinforced concrete walls, steel-lined chambers, and heavy blast doors make the facility secure against physical intrusion and natural disaster, and like other central bank vaults, it's got multiple access controls including time locks and restricted keyholder systems. Today, though, it serves primarily as a storage site for foreign central banks and international institutions. Just as with the Federal Reserve Bank of New York and the Bank of England, the Bank of Canada offers custodial services, holding reserves on behalf of other governments. This allows Canada to maintain its position in the global financial system even without its own gold reserves. That decision to sell nearly all of Canada's gold was based on a shift in financial strategy. The government argued that gold no longer played the same role in modern monetary systems, and that assets like foreign currencies and bonds offered better returns and greater flexibility. And while controversial, the policy has remained in place for decades, leaving Canada as an outlier among developed nations. Reports confirm that it still operates as a secure depository, though, safeguarded by the Bank of Canada's internal security. In global terms, Canada's vault is unique. Unlike Fort Knox and the Bank of France, it doesn't symbolize national reserves, but instead functions as a neutral custodian. For the foreign governments that store assets there, Ottawa offers political stability, strong security, and the discretion of a respected G7 nation. Number 3. The Bank of Japan. Japan, as the world's third largest economy, has long recognized the importance of gold reserves in maintaining financial stability. The Bank of Japan, which functions as the country's central bank, holds more than 850 tons of gold, ranking it among the top 10 world gold holders. The bank's gold vaults in Tokyo are not widely publicized as Fort Knox or the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, yet they remain some of the most critically secured facilities in Asia. The Bank of Japan's headquarters sits in the Nihonbashi district of Tokyo, a financial district that's historically been at the heart of Japan's banking system. The building itself dates back to the late 19th century with architectural features inspired by European central banks of the era. The facility is buried deep below street level to minimize risk from natural disasters, sabotage, or military attack. Earthquakes, though, a recurring feature of life in Japan, were a serious consideration in its design, and the vaults were engineered to withstand seismic activity way beyond typical building codes. Inside the vaults, the gold is stored in the form of the standard 400 troy-ounce bars, the same type used in international transactions. The value of the collection does fluctuate with gold prices, but in current terms, it amounts to tens of billions of US dollars. Only a very small group of staff are permitted, even limited entry, and movements of gold in or out are rare and carefully tracked. Now, historically, Japan's relationship with gold has been complex. During the Meiji period in the late 19th century, Japan adopted the gold standard, linking its currency to fixed amounts of gold in order to modernize its financial system and integrate it with the global economy. This policy shift required building substantial reserves, much of which were obtained through trade surpluses and reparations. However, in the 20th century, Japan, like most nations, abandoned the gold standard, and gold became less central to monetary policy. After World War II, Japan rebuilt its economy under conditions where foreign reserves were limited, and by the 1970s and 80s, as Japan's export boom gathered pace, the Bank of Japan gradually built its gold reserves to provide a cushion for its increasingly powerful but vulnerable economy. And while the bank doesn't publicize images of its vaults, some information has surfaced through parliamentary reports. These confirm that reserves are indeed stored domestically in Tokyo, with smaller amounts likely to be stored abroad. That diversification does allow Japan to facilitate transactions without always having to physically move the bullion. That approach shows the balance between accessibility for international dealings and maintaining sovereignty over its own reserves. While gold plays no direct role in any policy, its presence in the vaults does provide a psychological and practical assurance that Japan retains a foundation of tangible assets. Tokyo has long been a center for gold trading in Asia, and major Japanese banks and trading houses have operated vaults and trading facilities. But the Bank of Japan's underground chambers remain the ultimate symbol of the country's financial security. Number 2. The Bundeshaus Gold Vaults in Bern, Switzerland. Switzerland, it's synonymous with banking secrecy, financial security, and discreet safekeeping of the world's wealth. Beyond the better-known private bank vaults of Zurich and Geneva lies one of the country's most critical treasures, the Swiss National Bank's gold reserves, a large portion of which are stored deep underground in Bern at the Bundeshaus complex and in other secure undisclosed sites in Switzerland. As of the most recent official figures, the SNB holds about 1,040 tons of gold, placing Switzerland among the top 10 gold holders worldwide. The Bundeshaus, Switzerland's federal palace in Bern, is the seat of the Swiss government and the parliament. And beyond that symbolic building, which represents its democratic and political life of the nation, is a network of secure vaults that serve as part of the Swiss National Bank's gold reserve. Unlike more famous commercial bank vaults that once drew clients from all over the globe, the SNB vaults serve an entirely different function. They anchor the country's official reserves and help guarantee its stability. Inside the vaults, the gold is held in the form of internationally standardized 400 troy-ounce bars, each weighing about 12.4 kilograms. Every bar is cataloged with a unique serial number, weight, and purity level. While the public is not allowed to enter these vaults, the bank has released figures and occasional photographs. The transparency here is deliberate. Switzerland's credibility as a custodian of wealth rests not only on the secrecy, but on trust and verifiable accuracy. For decades, the Swiss franc was legally backed by gold. Up until 1999, the Swiss constitution required that at least 40% of the currency in circulation is backed by gold reserves. This rule made Switzerland the last major country to abandon the formal gold standard. In 2000, after a national referendum, the SNB was allowed to sell a portion of its holdings, reducing reserves from over 2,600 tons to the current level of about 1,040 tons. That debate resurfaced in 2014 when the Save Our Swiss Gold initiative was put to a national vote. The referendum proposed requiring the SNB to hold at least 20% of its assets in gold, repatriate all reserves to Switzerland, and prohibit any future sales. Today, while the SNB reserves both domestically and trusted foreign vaults, like in the Bank of England and the Bank of Canada, the majority of its gold remains in Switzerland itself. In addition to that role in national policy, the vaults still do symbolize the Swiss approach to wealth: discreet, secure, and grounded in stability. Unlike Fort Knox, which has become a cultural icon, or even the New York Fed's vault, the Bundeshaus vaults are rarely mentioned outside specialist circles. For clients and nations alike, the idea that gold lies untouched in Swiss rock carries enormous weight. And though the contents of the vaults are measured in tons, they're not static relics. Gold reserves can be mobilized when needed. Switzerland has historically used its holdings to intervene in currency markets, and while gold is no longer a formal backing for the franc, it does continue to be regarded as a stabilizing element to their balance sheet. The gold in burn thus serves both symbolic and practical functions. It reassures the Swiss public, it strengthens the country's credibility internationally, and it provides a buffer against any crisis. Number 1. The International Monetary Fund Gold Holdings. The International Monetary Fund, the IMF, headquartered in Washington, D.C., is not a central bank, but an international organization created to promote global financial stability. Yet it ranks as one of the largest holders of gold in the world, with official reserves of over 2,800 tons. Unlike national vaults like Fort Knox or the Bank of France, the IMF's gold is not all kept in a single chamber. Instead, its reserves are distributed across trusted depositories, including the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, the Bank of England in London, and the Bank of France in Paris. The IMF's gold has a unique history. When the organization was founded in 1944 at Bretton Woods, member countries contributed to its resources in part with gold. For decades, gold served as the foundation of the IMF's financial system, and over the years, the organization has occasionally sold limited amounts of gold to fund programs or provide debt relief to member countries. The gold is stored in those standard bars, each carefully documented, weighed, and audited. And because the IMF doesn't operate its own vaults, it relies on the custodial arrangements of its member countries. But what makes the IMF's reserves significant is the global role of them. Unlike national gold holdings, which support a single country's financial security, the IMF's gold is a collective asset of its 190-plus member nations. It provides the organization with credibility in international markets, and it serves as a backstop in times of global crisis. For example, the IMF has used its gold sales in the past to fund initiatives that support low-income countries or to stabilize economies under severe stress. Although the IMF's gold doesn't occupy a single vault like Fort Knox, its importance is arguably even greater. It does represent a pooled global asset, a reminder of the post-war financial order that continues to shape our economics today. Whether stored beneath Manhattan bedrock, inside the granite vaults of the Bank of France, or in the secure chambers of the Bank of England, the IMF's reserves remain one of the largest and most carefully protected collections of wealth in the world.